The city buzzed with life, its streets alive with the hum of cars, chatter of people, and the occasional bark of a dog. Neon signs flickered above shops, casting colorful reflections on wet pavement. It was one of those evenings where the air felt heavy, rain drizzling down in a steady rhythm that seemed to echo the mood of the world. Amidst all this, Liam Carter navigated his old delivery van through narrow alleys and crowded roads. His day had been long, too long, and he just wanted to finish his last drop-off and head home. Liam wasn't like most people you'd see walking around the city. His face carried deep scars, remnants of an accident years ago that had left him not only physically marked but emotionally scarred too. People often glanced at him, their eyes lingering for a second too long before quickly looking away. Some whispered behind his back. Others avoided him altogether. Over time, Liam learned to keep to himself, letting silence become his companion. He didn't mind much anymore. It was easier than dealing with judgmental stares or awkward conversations. That night, though, something unusual happened. As Liam pulled over near a dimly lit corner to deliver a package, he noticed a small figure standing under a flickering street lamp. At first glance, it looked like a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, clutching what appeared to be a stuffed rabbit close to her chest. She stood there motionless, drenched by the rain, her tiny frame trembling from the cold. Something about the way she looked, so vulnerable, so alone, made Liam pause. He hesitated for a moment. Normally, he wouldn't get involved. After all, he wasn't exactly the kind of person people approached easily. But tonight, something tugged at him. Maybe it was the way the girl's wide, frightened eyes searched the empty street, hoping for someone who wasn't coming. Or maybe it was the memory of his younger self, when he used to believe the world was full of good people willing to help. Whatever it was, Liam couldn't ignore it. Grabbing his jacket from the passenger seat, he stepped out into the rain. The water soaked through his shoes almost instantly, but he didn't care. Slowly, he walked toward the girl, making sure not to startle her. When he got closer, he crouched down to her level, his voice soft and calm despite the storm raging around them. "Hey there," he said gently. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" The girl blinked up at him, her lips quivering. For a moment, she didn't say anything, just stared at him as if trying to decide whether she could trust him. Then finally she nodded. I can't find my mommy," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of falling rain. Liam's heart sank. He reached out slowly, careful not to scare her further. "Don't worry," he reassured her. "We'll find your mom together, all right? What's your name?" "Emily," she replied softly, gripping her stuffed rabbit even tighter. "Well, Emily," Liam said with a small smile, "you're pretty brave to be out here all by yourself. Let's see if we can figure out where you came from." As he stood up and held out his hand, Liam realized this was going to be more than just another stop on his route. This little girl, shivering and scared, needed him. And for the first time, in a very long while, Liam felt like maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference. Liam could see the fear in the little girl's eyes, but he also noticed something else. Trust. Despite his scars and the way people usually reacted to him, Emily didn't seem afraid. She slipped her small hand into his, gripping it tightly, like it was a lifeline. Her fingers were cold from the rain, and Liam instinctively tightened his hold to keep her steady. "All right, Emily," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Let's figure out where you came from. Do you remember anything about where you last saw your mom?" Emily hesitated for a moment, her brow furrowing as she tried to think. Then softly she said, "There was a park, with swings, and there were lights, big ones, like on a building." Liam nodded, piecing together what little information she had given him. A park with lights nearby. That was something they could work with. He glanced around the street, trying to get his bearings. There was a playground a few blocks away near the edge of the neighborhood. It wasn't much to go on, but it was a start. "Okay, let's head toward the park," he told her. "If we don't find your mom there, we'll think of something else. Don't worry, we'll figure this out." As they started walking, Liam kept an eye on Emily, making sure she stayed close. The rain showed no signs of letting up, and the streets were slick with water. Cars drove past them, splashing, through puddles, their headlights cutting through the gloom. Every now and then Emily would glance up at him, her expression a mix of fear and curiosity. "You're really good at holding hands," she said suddenly, breaking the silence. Her voice was quiet but carried a hint of innocence that made Liam smile despite himself. "Well, I've had a lot of practice," he replied, chuckling softly. "I used to have a dog who loved going for walks. He'd pull me everywhere, so I learned how to hold on tight." "A dog?" Emily's eyes lit up a little. "What kind of dog?" "He was a big guy, a golden retriever," Liam explained. "His name was Max. He was the best buddy anyone could ask for. Loved chasing balls and eating snacks. You remind me of him a little, actually." "Me?" Emily giggled, her earlier fear easing just a bit. "How do I remind you of a dog?" "You're both loyal," Liam said with a grin. "And you've got those big, curious eyes. Plus you're tough, just like Max was. Not many kids can stand, out here in the rain like you're doing." Emily beamed at the compliment, and Liam felt a warmth spread through him. For years he'd avoided talking about Max because it brought back memories he didn't want to face. But sharing a piece of his past with Emily felt different. It felt nice. They continued walking, Liam keeping the conversation light to distract her from the situation. He told her funny stories about Max, how the dog once stole an entire sandwich off the kitchen counter, or how he'd chase squirrels only to give up halfway and lie down in the grass instead. Emily laughed at each story, her grip on his hand loosening slightly as she relaxed. But even as he entertained her, Liam couldn't shake the unease gnawing at him. What if someone dangerous had been the one to find Emily before him? What if she hadn't trusted him and wandered off into the dark streets alone? The thought sent a chill down his spine, colder than the rain soaking through his clothes. After a while, they reached the park. The swings swayed gently in the wind, creaking softly as droplets of water dripped from the chains. Nearby, a tall office building stood illuminated by bright floodlights, its windows reflecting the stormy sky. Liam scanned the area, looking for any sign of someone searching for a lost child. The place seemed deserted. "Do you recognize this spot?" he asked Emily, crouching down to her level again. She squinted, studying the surroundings carefully. After a moment, she shook her head. "Not really, but it looks kind of like the place I was at earlier." "It's okay," Liam reassured her. "We'll keep looking. Maybe your mom is somewhere close by." He stood up and took her hand again, leading her toward the building. As they walked, Liam spotted a security guard standing near the entrance, sheltering under an awning. Hoping for some help, Liam approached him. "Excuse me," he called out. "Have you seen anyone looking for a little girl tonight? She's lost and we're trying to find her family." The guard frowned, shaking his head. "Sorry, haven't seen anyone, but I can radio it in if you want. Someone might have reported a missing kid." "That'd be great, thanks," Liam said, relief washing over him. At least now someone official would know about Emily. Turning back to the girl, Liam gave her a reassuring smile. "We're getting closer, kiddo. Just hang in there a little longer." Emily nodded, her trust in him unwavering. As they waited for news from the security guard, Liam realized something. He wasn't just helping Emily find her way home. In a strange way, she was helping him too. For the first time in years, he felt like he mattered. Like maybe, just maybe, he could still make a difference in someone's life. The security guard's radio crackled to life, filling the chilly night air with static and faint voices. Liam stood beside Emily, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder, as they waited for any news. The guard listened intently, nodding, occasionally before finally turning back to them. "Someone reported a missing child about half an hour ago," he said, his tone serious but kind. "A couple, parents I think, is looking for their daughter. They're at the police station now." Liam felt a wave of relief wash over him. "That's gotta be her," he said, glancing down at Emily. "Do you think your mom and dad are at the station?" Emily nodded eagerly, her eyes lighting up with hope. "Yes, they must be waiting for me. The guard gave them directions to the station, which was only a few blocks away. As they started walking again, Liam couldn't help but notice how much lighter Emily seemed now that there was a clear path forward. Her steps were quicker, and she clung less tightly to her stuffed rabbit. Still, Liam kept a firm grip on her hand, making sure she stayed close. The streets were quieter now, the rain having driven most people indoors. Puddles reflected the dim glow of streetlights, and the occasional car splashed past, sending ripples across the water. Liam tried to distract Emily from the cold and wet by pointing out little things along the way. A stray cat hiding under, a parked car, a brightly colored mural on the side of a building, even a cluster of balloons tied to a lamppost. "Look at those balloons," he said, smiling. "What do you think they're for?" Emily tilted her head, studying them. "Maybe someone's birthday? Or a party?" "Could be," Liam agreed. "If it's a party, I hope they have cake." "Do you like cake?" "I love cake," Emily exclaimed, her voice full of excitement. "Chocolate is my favorite." "Well, when we find your mom and dad, maybe we can all celebrate with some chocolate cake," Liam suggested. "Wouldn't that be nice?" Emily grinned, nodding enthusiastically. For a moment the world felt normal again, like a simple conversation about cake could erase all the worry and fear of the evening. As they neared the police station, Liam spotted two figures pacing anxiously outside the entrance. A man and a woman, both soaked from the rain, looked frantic as they scanned the empty street. The woman held a phone to her ear, talking rapidly while tears streamed down her face. When she caught sight of Emily and Liam approaching, her expression shifted from despair to disbelief. "Emily!" the woman cried, dropping the phone and running toward them. The man followed close behind, his eyes wide with relief. Emily let go of Liam's hand and sprinted into her mother's arms, burying her face in the woman's coat. Her father knelt beside them, wrapping his arms around both of them as they sobbed with joy. It was a scene so raw and emotional that Liam found himself stepping back, giving them space to reunite. After a few moments, the woman turned to Liam, her eyes red but filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she choked out, reaching for his hands. "Thank you so much for bringing her back to us." "It's okay," Liam replied, feeling awkward under their heartfelt praise. "I just happened to be in the right place, at the right time." "No," the man interjected firmly, shaking his head. "You went above and beyond. You didn't have to do what you did, but you did it anyway. We'll never forget this." Liam shrugged, unsure of what to say. He wasn't used to being thanked not like this. Most people didn't even bother acknowledging him unless it was to stare at his scars or whisper behind his back. But these two strangers were looking at him with nothing but sincerity and appreciation. Before he could respond, Emily broke free from her parents' embrace and ran back to him. She threw her arms around his waist, hugging him tightly. "Thank you for finding me," she whispered, her voice muffled against his jacket. Liam froze for a second, surprised by the sudden affection. Then, tentatively, he placed a hand on her back, patting her gently. "You're welcome, kiddo," he murmured. "I'm just glad you're safe." When Emily finally stepped back, her parents insisted on driving Liam home as a gesture of gratitude. Though he initially declined, saying he still had deliveries to finish, they wouldn't take no for an answer. Reluctantly, Liam climbed into their car, feeling out of place but touched by their kindness. On the ride back, the conversation flowed easily. They asked him about his job, his life, and even complimented his bravery. Liam found himself opening up more than he expected, sharing bits and pieces of his story without going too deep. By the time they dropped him off at his van, he realized he hadn't felt this comfortable around people in years. As he watched their car disappear into the rainy night, Liam leaned against his delivery truck, letting out a long breath. The evening had been exhausting, but it left him with a strange sense of fulfillment. Helping Emily hadn't just brought her back to her family. It had reminded him of something he'd forgotten. That even someone like him, scarred and overlooked, could still make a difference. And as he climbed back into his van and drove off into the stormy city, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end of the story. Something told him that meeting Emily and her family would change his life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The next few days passed in a blur for Liam. He went back to his routine, delivering packages, navigating the city's busy streets, and keeping mostly to himself. But no matter how hard he tried to focus on work, his mind kept drifting back to that rainy night. The image of Emily hugging him tightly, her parents' tearful gratitude, and the way they'd treated him with such warmth, it all lingered in his thoughts like a melody he couldn't shake. He wasn't used to being noticed, let alone appreciated. For years, people had either avoided him or stared at his scars, making him feel like an outsider in his own world. But Emily's family had been different. They hadn't flinched when they saw him. Instead, they'd welcomed him with open arms. It was something Liam hadn't realized he needed until it happened. On the third day after the incident, Liam was parked near a small cafe, sorting through his delivery orders. As he grabbed a package from the passenger seat, he heard a soft knock on his truck window. Startled, he looked up to see Emily's mother standing there, holding a folded piece of paper. She smiled warmly as their eyes met, waving slightly to get his attention. Liam rolled down the window, feeling a mix of surprise and unease. "Hi," he said cautiously. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," she replied, her voice friendly and reassuring. "I just wanted to thank you again for what you did. You have no idea how much it meant to us." "Oh," Liam muttered, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. "You don't need to thank me. I was just doing what anyone would have done." She shook her head firmly. "No, not everyone would have done what you did. You took care of our daughter when she needed help the most. That's not something we'll ever forget." Liam didn't know how to respond. Compliments made him uncomfortable, especially when they came from people who barely knew him. He shifted in his seat, avoiding eye contact. "Well, I'm glad I could help." Before he could say anything else, she handed him the folded paper. "This is for you," she said softly. "It's a little note from Emily. She insisted I give it to you." Curious, Liam unfolded the paper and read the message. Inside, it was written in childish handwriting with colorful doodles of hearts and stars decorating the edges. The words were simple but heartfelt. "Thank you for finding me. You're my hero." For a moment, Liam felt his throat tighten. He stared at the note, unsure of what to say. No one had ever called him a hero before, not even close. The weight of those two words hit him harder than he expected. "She really wanted you to have that," Emily's mother added, breaking the silence. "She hasn't stopped talking about you since that night. You made quite an impression on her." Liam stammered, still holding the note. "I didn't do anything special. Just kept her safe until you guys showed up." "That's exactly why we're so grateful," she said, her tone sincere. "Not everyone would have gone out of their way like you did. And honestly, we'd love to repay you somehow. Would you consider joining us for dinner sometime? It's the least we can do." Liam hesitated. Dinner? With strangers? The idea felt strange and overwhelming. He wasn't good at socializing, especially with people outside of work. What would they talk about? What if he said the wrong thing? His scars always seemed to make people uncomfortable, no matter how hard they tried to hide it. "I appreciate the offer," he began slowly. "But I don't think—" "Please," she interrupted gently. "We want to show our thanks properly. You saved our daughter, and that's something we'll never be able to repay. Just one meal, that's all we're asking." Her persistence caught him off guard. Most people wouldn't push this hard to include someone like him. Maybe it was the sincerity in her voice or the genuine look in her eyes, but something about her invitation made him reconsider. "All right," he finally agreed, surprising himself as much as her. "One dinner." Her face lit up with a bright smile. "Wonderful. How about Friday evening? Does that work for you?" Liam nodded, though a part of him already regretted saying yes. "Friday works." With that settled, Emily's mother waved goodbye and headed off, leaving Liam sitting in his truck with the note still clutched in his hand. He stared at it for a long time, the word hero echoing in his mind. He didn't feel like a hero. Far from it. But maybe, just maybe, he'd done something worth remembering. When Friday evening arrived, Liam found himself standing nervously outside the modest house where Emily's family lived. The neighborhood was quiet, with neatly trimmed lawns and warm porch lights casting golden glows onto the sidewalks. He adjusted his jacket self-consciously, wondering if he should have dressed differently or brought something, a bottle of wine maybe, or flowers. But it was too late to turn back now. Before he could knock, the door swung open, revealing Emily's father. "Hey there," the man greeted him with a wide grin. "Come on in, we've been waiting for you." Liam stepped inside, feeling out of place in the cozy living room. Emily's mother was setting the table, while Emily herself sat cross-legged, on the floor coloring in a picture book. When she spotted Liam, her face broke into a huge smile. "You came," she exclaimed, jumping up and running over to hug him. This time, Liam didn't hesitate. He bent down and hugged her back, smiling despite himself. Dinner was surprisingly pleasant. The conversation flowed easily, with Emily's parents sharing stories about their jobs, hobbies, and travels. They asked Liam about his life too, genuinely interested in hearing his answers. At one point, Emily proudly showed him a drawing she'd made earlier that week, a stick figure version of Liam standing beside her under a big yellow sun. "That's amazing," Liam said, chuckling. "Did I really look that tall?" "Yes," Emily giggled. "You're a giant." Everyone laughed, and for the first time in years, Liam felt like he belonged somewhere. These people weren't judging him for his scars or treating him like an outsider. Instead, they welcomed him as part of their family, if only for the night. As the evening drew to a close, Emily's mother walked him to the door. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice warm. "It means a lot to us." "It was nice," Liam admitted, surprising himself with how true that statement felt. "Thanks for having me." Before he left, Emily ran up to him one last time, handing him another small drawing. "So you won't forget us," she explained shyly. Liam smiled, tucking the picture into his pocket. "I won't forget," he promised, and deep down he knew he never would. After that first dinner, Liam didn't expect to see Emily's family again. He figured it was a one-time thing, a polite gesture to show their gratitude, and he was okay with that. But life has a funny way of surprising you, and in this case, the surprise turned out to be wonderful. A few days later, while Liam was making deliveries in the same neighborhood, he spotted Emily's father walking down the street. The man waved enthusiastically when he saw Liam, jogging over to catch up with him. "Hey, how's it going?" the man asked, his tone friendly and familiar, like they'd known each other for years. "I'm good," Liam replied, slightly taken aback by the encounter but smiling nonetheless. "Just working my route." "That's great. Listen, we're having a little get-together this weekend, just some friends and neighbors. Nothing fancy, just burgers and music. I know it's short notice, but we'd love for you to come," Liam hesitated, scratching the back of his neck. Social gatherings weren't exactly his thing. He preferred quiet evenings alone, maybe watching TV or tinkering with an old guitar he'd picked up at a yard sale years ago. Being around groups of people always made him feel out of place, and he worried about sticking out like a sore thumb. "I don't want to intrude," he said finally. "It sounds fun, though." "You wouldn't be intruding," the man insisted. "We've told everyone about you, the guy who helped bring our Emily home. They all want to meet you." Liam blinked, caught off guard. "Wait, you told them about me?" "Of course," the man laughed. "You're kind of a legend in our house now. Seriously, come by. It'll be nice to have you there." Liam still wasn't sure, but the sincerity in the man's voice was hard to ignore. Plus, he couldn't deny that spending time with Emily's family had felt good, like he'd found a tiny piece of belonging he hadn't realized he was missing. "All right," he said slowly. "I'll think about it." The man grinned, clearly pleased. "That's all I ask. Just let us know if you can make it." By Friday evening, Liam found himself standing outside the house once again, this time holding a six-pack of soda he'd grabbed from the store on impulse. He wasn't sure if bringing anything was necessary, but it felt like the right thing to do. As he knocked on the door, he braced himself for what lay ahead. Emily answered the door, her face lighting up instantly. "You came!" she squealed, grabbing his hand and pulling him inside. Mom, Dad, he's here. Her parents appeared moments later, welcoming him warmly. The living room buzzed with activity, people chatting, kids playing, and the faint smell of grilled food wafting through the air. Liam felt a pang of nervousness as several pairs of eyes turned toward him. But Emily's father quickly stepped in to ease the tension. "This is Liam," he announced to the group. "He's the reason we're celebrating tonight. If it weren't for him, our little Emily might still be lost." There were murmurs of appreciation, smiles, and even a round of applause. Liam shifted uncomfortably, not used to being the center of attention. "Really, it was nothing," he mumbled, trying to deflect the praise. "It wasn't nothing," Emily's mother chimed in. "You went above and beyond. Now stop being modest and enjoy yourself." With that, she handed him a plate loaded with food, juicy burgers, crispy fries, and a side of coleslaw. Liam thanked her, feeling a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. For someone who spent most of his life avoiding crowds, this sudden inclusion felt surreal. As the night wore on, Liam found himself relaxing more than he expected. Emily introduced him to her friends, proudly declaring him her hero. Her parents kept refilling his drink and drawing him into conversations about everything from movies to sports. Even the other guests seemed genuinely interested in getting to know him, asking questions without any hint of judgment or discomfort. At one point, Emily tugged on his sleeve and led him outside to the backyard, where fairy lights twinkled above a small gathering of chairs. She plopped down onto a swing hanging from a tree branch and patted the seat beside her. "Sit with me," she said, her tone matter-of-fact. Liam chuckled, lowering himself onto the neighboring swing. "What's up, kiddo?" "I wanted to tell you something," she said seriously, swinging gently back and forth. "You're my favorite person ever." Liam froze, unsure of how to respond. No one had ever said anything like that to him before. Not even close. His heart swelled with emotion, but he forced himself to play it cool. "Well, you're pretty awesome too," he replied, ruffling her hair affectionately. "Don't forget that." Emily giggled, kicking her legs harder to swing higher. Watching her laugh, Liam felt a warmth spread through him, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. It wasn't just happiness, it was connection. For so long he'd convinced himself that he didn't need people, that he was better off alone. But sitting here now, surrounded by kindness and laughter, he realized how wrong he'd been. Later, that night as the party began winding down, Emily's parents pulled Liam aside. "We can't thank you enough for coming," her mother said sincerely. "It means so much to us, and to Emily." "And to me," Liam admitted quietly. I haven't had many friends in a long time. This has been really nice." Her father clapped him on the shoulder. "Then you'll have to keep coming around. You're part of the family now, whether you like it or not." Liam smiled, shaking his head in disbelief. Family? Him? It sounded impossible, yet here he was, being welcomed into a circle of people who truly cared about him. As he drove home that night, the city streets glowing softly under the moonlight, Liam couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Maybe his scars didn't define him after all. Maybe, just maybe, he deserved to belong somewhere. Over the next few weeks, Liam's life began to change in ways he never anticipated. What started as a single act of kindness on a rainy night had blossomed into something deeper, a genuine friendship with Emily's family that filled the empty spaces in his heart. They didn't treat him like an outsider or someone to be pitied. Instead, they included him in their lives as if he'd always been there. Emily's parents invited him over regularly, sometimes for dinner, other times for casual get-togethers, where everyone just hung out and laughed. At first, Liam hesitated, unsure if he belonged in such moments, but every time he showed up, they greeted him with open arms, making sure he felt comfortable. Slowly, he started looking forward to these visits. The warmth of their home, the sound of laughter echoing through the rooms. It was everything his own life had been missing. One Saturday afternoon, Liam arrived at their house to find Emily waiting for him by the front door, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm and a big grin on her face. "We're going to the park," she announced excitedly. "You're coming with us." Liam raised an eyebrow, amused. "Am I now?" "Yes," she said firmly, grabbing his hand and tugging him inside. "Mom packed sandwiches and we're going to play catch. You have to come." Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Liam couldn't say no. He followed her into the kitchen where Emily's mother was packing a picnic basket, while her father flipped through a playlist on his phone. "Looks like you've been recruited," Emily's father teased, noticing Liam's slightly bewildered expression. "Don't worry. We won't make you run too much. Unless you want to." Liam chuckled, shaking his head. "I think I'll stick to cheering from the sidelines." The park was bustling with activity when they arrived. Kids chased each other across the grass. Dogs barked happily as they played fetch, and families spread blankets under shady trees. Emily immediately ran off to explore, dragging Liam along with her. She introduced him to her friends, proudly, declaring him her favorite grown-up. Liam found himself laughing more than he had in years, marveling at how effortlessly Emily brought joy to everyone around her. As the afternoon wore on, they settled down for lunch under a large oak tree. Emily's mother handed Liam a sandwich wrapped in wax paper, smiling warmly. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her tone light but caring. "I'm good," Liam replied honestly. "Better than I thought I'd be, actually." She nodded, studying him for a moment before speaking again. "You know, we've all noticed a change in you. You seem lighter somehow, happier." Liam blinked, caught off guard by her observation. He hadn't realized anyone had noticed or cared enough to point it out. "I guess I am," he admitted quietly. "Being around you guys has helped me see things differently." "That's what family does," Emily's father chimed in, leaning back against the tree trunk. "They remind you that you're not alone, even when you feel like it." Liam looked down at his sandwich, feeling a lump rise in his throat. Family. The word still felt foreign, yet oddly comforting. For so long, he'd convinced himself that he didn't need anyone, that relying on others only led to disappointment. But here he was, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about him, who saw past his scars and accepted him for who he was. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Liam sat beside Emily on a swing set. She swung lazily, humming a tune under her breath while Liam watched the world blur by in slow motion. "You're my best friend," Emily declared suddenly, breaking the peaceful silence. Liam smiled, touched by her innocence. "And you're mine," he replied softly. "Don't ever forget that." Back at home that night, Liam sat on his worn-out couch staring at the drawings Emily had given him over the past few weeks. Each one featured him prominently, standing tall beside her, protecting her from imaginary monsters, or simply smiling, under a bright yellow sun. He traced the edges of the pictures with his fingers, marveling at how much they meant to him. For years, he'd let his scars define him, letting them become a barrier between him and the rest of the world. But now, thanks to Emily and her family, he was starting to see himself differently. They reminded him that scars weren't weaknesses. They were proof of survival, of resilience. And maybe, just maybe, they didn't have to hold him back anymore. Turkey. Next morning, as Liam prepared for another day of deliveries, he caught his reflection in the rearview mirror of his van. His scars were still there, etched into his skin like permanent reminders of his past. But for the first time in years, he didn't flinch when he saw them. Instead, he straightened his posture, took a deep breath, and smiled. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. He wasn't alone anymore. As the weeks turned into months, Liam's bond with Emily's family grew stronger. He wasn't just a casual acquaintance anymore. He was part of their routine, their lives. Sundays became family dinner nights, where everyone gathered around the table to share food and stories. Weekends often included trips to the park, movie nights, or even impromptu game sessions that left them all laughing until their sides hurt. For Liam, these moments were like pieces of a puzzle he hadn't realized was incomplete. One evening, after a particularly lively dinner, Emily's father leaned back in his chair and let out a satisfied sigh. "You know," he said, glancing at Liam with a thoughtful expression, "we've been meaning to ask you something." Liam looked up from his plate, curious. "What's that?" "Well," Emily's mother chimed in, exchanging a quick smile with her husband before turning to Liam. "We've noticed how much you've opened up since we met you. You're not the same guy who walked into our house that first night, and we wanted to know, are you okay? Like, really okay?" The question caught Liam off guard. He set down his fork, suddenly feeling exposed. It wasn't that they were prying, they genuinely cared about him. Still, talking about himself had never been easy, especially when it came to the things that haunted him most. I'm doing better," he said finally, choosing his words carefully. "Being around you guys has helped more than I can say." "That's great," Emily's father replied, nodding encouragingly. "But there's still something holding you back, isn't there? Something you haven't told us yet?" Liam hesitated, staring at the half-eaten slice of pie on his plate. He didn't owe them an explanation. They'd never pressured him before. But maybe it was time. Maybe this was the moment to let someone in, to trust them enough to share the pain he'd carried for so long. Taking a deep breath, he began to speak. "A few years ago, I was in a car accident," he said slowly, his voice steady but quiet. "It was bad, really bad. I was driving home late one night, and another car ran a red light. I don't remember much about what happened next, just waking up in the hospital and realizing everything had changed." He paused, running a hand over his scarred cheek. "The doctors saved my life, but, well, you can see the rest. These scars, they're not just on the outside, they're inside too. People look at me differently now, like I'm broken or dangerous or, I don't know, less than human." Emily's mother reached across the table, placing a gentle hand over his. "Liam, no one thinks that about you, not us." "I know," he said, giving her a small, grateful smile. "Not anymore. But for a long time, that's how it felt. Strangers avoided me, old friends stopped calling, and eventually, I stopped trying. I convinced myself I didn't need anyone, that being alone was easier than facing rejection every day." There was silence for a moment as his words sank in. Then Emily's father spoke up, his tone firm but kind. "That's not living, though. You deserve more than just surviving. Don't you think it's time to stop letting the past control your future?" Liam nodded, though he wasn't sure if he believed it yet. Talking about his scars, the physical ones and the emotional ones, felt like lifting a weight he'd carried for years, but it also left him raw, vulnerable in a way he wasn't used to. "We're here for you no matter what," Emily's mother added softly. "You're not alone in this. Whatever you decide to do next, we'll support you." Her words hit him, harder than he expected. For so long, Liam had pushed people away, afraid of burdening them with his struggles. But here they were, offering him exactly what he'd been missing: unconditional support. Over the next few days, Liam found himself thinking about their conversation constantly. His delivery route, usually a blur of streets and addresses, became a backdrop for reflection. He replayed their words in his head. "You deserve more. You're not alone." Could he really start over? Could he find a way to move forward? One afternoon, while waiting for traffic to clear at a busy intersection, Liam spotted a flyer taped to a lamppost. It advertised a local community college course called Introduction to Counseling. The description mentioned helping others overcome trauma and build resilience. Something about it resonated with him, a spark of possibility he couldn't ignore. That evening, Liam brought the idea up during dinner at Emily's house. "I've been thinking," he said, fidgeting nervously with his napkin. "What if I tried something new, something meaningful?" Everyone stopped eating to listen, their attention focused entirely on him. "Go on," Emily's father urged, clearly intrigued. "There's a class starting soon," Liam explained. "It's about counseling, helping people work through tough times. I thought maybe I could give it a shot. The room fell silent for a beat before Emily broke it with an excited squeal. "That's amazing," she exclaimed, bouncing in her seat. "You'd be so good at it." Her parents nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely." Emily's mother agreed. "You've already helped us more than you realize. Imagine what you could do for others." Liam smiled, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "It's scary," he admitted. "I don't know if I'm cut out for it, but I want to try." And try he did. Over the next few months, Liam threw himself into the course, attending classes after work and studying late into the night. Emily's family cheered him on every step of the way, celebrating his successes and offering encouragement when things got tough. They reminded him that he wasn't just learning to help others, he was healing himself too. Through it all, Liam discovered something unexpected: purpose. Helping others navigate their pain gave him a sense of fulfillment he'd never experienced before. And as he stood in front of the mirror one morning, preparing for another day of deliveries and another night of class, he realized something profound. His scars weren't marks of failure. They were reminders of survival, of strength. And for the first time in years, he wore them proudly.